The theater lights dimmed slowly, and a gentle hush rolled across the audience like a soft wave. People shifted in their seats, not sure what to expect next. The judges leaned back, relaxed but curious, flipping through notes and whispering quietly among themselves. On the massive screen behind the stage, the next act's name appeared briefly, and then it faded away as a small figure walked out from the side of the stage. She was just 11 years old. Lily Wilker stepped into the spotlight, her shoes barely making a sound against the glossy floor. She was tiny compared to the enormous stage, but she stood straight, her shoulders back, her chin lifted with a mix of excitement and nerves. Her eyes sparkled as she scanned the crowd, taking in the thousands of faces staring back at her. Somewhere in the audience, her parents sat with their hands clasped together, hearts pounding faster than the drums used in previous acts. Terry greeted her warmly, crouching slightly so he was closer to her height. He asked her name, and she answered clearly, her voice steady despite the overwhelming moment. When he asked her age, the audience reacted with a soft murmur, surprised at how young she was. Then came the question everyone was waiting for. What was her talent? Lily smiled, a shy smile at first, then a confident one. She explained that she did animal impressions. Not just one or two animals, but many. Realistic ones. The kind you might hear in the wild or on a nature documentary. The crowd chuckled politely, unsure of what that really meant. Animal impressions were not new to talent shows, and sometimes they leaned more toward comedy than amazement. Simon raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. He leaned forward and asked her which animals she could do. Lily listed a few, her voice calm, as if she were talking about something completely ordinary. Dogs, cats, birds, horses, and some more unusual ones too. The audience laughed lightly at the idea, but there was curiosity in the air now. How good could an 11-year-old really be? He asked her where she learned to do this. Lily explained that she loved animals more than anything. She spent hours watching documentaries, listening carefully to every sound. She practiced in her room, in the backyard, sometimes even at the dinner table until her parents begged her to stop making animal noises while they were eating. The audience laughed warmly, already starting to connect with her. Then came the moment of truth. Simon nodded and told her to show them what she had. The lights shifted slightly, focusing more tightly on Lily as the room fell quiet. She closed her eyes for just a second, took a small breath, and then it happened. The first sound that came out of her mouth was a dog bark, but not just any bark. It was sharp, energetic, full of personality. It echoed through the theater, so realistic that several people in the audience instinctively turned their heads, as if expecting to see an actual dog run across the stage. The judges exchanged quick glances. This was already better than expected. Without pausing, Lily shifted seamlessly into a cat. A soft meow turned into a demanding yowl, then into a low purr that vibrated with astonishing accuracy. Heidi's eyes widened. She leaned closer to the table, clearly impressed. The audience responded with louder laughter and applause now, the kind that comes from genuine surprise. But Lily was just getting started. She moved on to birds next. A delicate chirp filled the air, then another, then a series of complex calls that sounded like a forest waking up at dawn. The sounds overlapped and danced, rising and falling in pitch. For a moment, it felt as if the theater itself had transformed into a woodland scene. You could almost imagine sunlight filtering through leaves. Howie laughed out loud, shaking his head in disbelief. He raised his hands as if to say no way. Sophia smiled broadly, her expression soft and delighted. Then Lily surprised everyone again. She leaned slightly forward and produced a hoarse whinny so powerful and clear that it seemed impossible it came from such a small child. The sound was rich, deep, and full of life. The audience erupted into cheers, clapping loudly now. Some people stood halfway up from their seats, unable to contain their excitement. Simon, who was usually hard to impress, smiled despite himself. He leaned back, crossing his arms, clearly enjoying the performance more than he had anticipated. Lily did not stop there. She moved through animal after animal, each one more detailed than the last. A cow's low moo that resonated in the chest. A sheep's gentle bleat. Even a frog croak that made the front rows burst into laughter. Each sound was distinct, accurate, and delivered with confidence. The judges were no longer just watching. They were reacting, laughing, clapping, and exchanging amazed looks. The audience was fully on board now, cheering between impressions, shouting encouragement, and applauding loudly. At one point, Lily paused, looking at the judges as if waiting for instructions. Simon leaned forward again and challenged her. He asked if she could do something more difficult. Maybe something wild. Lily nodded, her smile growing. She explained that she could do a lion. The theater went quiet again, this time filled with anticipation. Lily planted her feet firmly, took a deeper breath than before, and opened her mouth. The roar that followed was astonishing. It was loud, powerful, and commanding, echoing across the room like it belonged on the African savanna. People gasped. Some even covered their mouths in shock. The sound had depth and texture, rising and falling with raw intensity. It did not sound like a child pretending. It sounded like a real lion announcing its presence. The reaction was immediate and explosive. The audience jumped to their feet, applauding wildly. Cheers filled the air. Howie stood up, clapping over his head. Sophia laughed in disbelief, shaking her head as if she could not process what she had just heard. Heidi's mouth hung open in pure amazement. Simon looked genuinely stunned. He leaned forward, resting his hands on the table, staring at Lily with a mixture of surprise and admiration. When the applause finally began to die down, he spoke. He told Lily that he did not expect that at all. He admitted that animal impressions often did not impress him, but what she had just done was something else entirely. He said it was not just funny, it was talented. Truly talented. Lily listened carefully, her eyes wide, absorbing every word. She nodded politely, her smile shy but proud. The other judges chimed in as well. Heidi told her she was adorable and unbelievably skilled, and that she could listen to her all day. Sophia praised her confidence and uniqueness, saying that Lily brought joy to the stage in a way that felt fresh and exciting. Howie joked that he was now officially afraid of her lion impression, but added that he thought she was incredible and unforgettable. Then came the voting. One by one, the judges gave her enthusiastic yes votes. Each one was met with cheers from the audience. Lily's smile grew wider with every yes, her hands clasped tightly in front of her as she tried to stay composed. As she left the stage, waving to the crowd, the applause followed her all the way off. Backstage, her parents rushed to her, wrapping her in hugs, tears streaming down their faces. Lily laughed, a mix of joy and relief, still buzzing from the adrenaline. In interviews later, Lily explained how much that moment meant to her. She talked about how animals had always been her safe place, her inspiration. When she was younger, she sometimes felt shy around other kids, but animals made her feel understood. Learning their sounds became a way for her to express herself, to communicate in a language that felt natural and comforting. She practiced constantly, not because she wanted fame, but because it made her happy. She said she never imagined standing on such a big stage, hearing thousands of people cheer for something she loved doing in her bedroom. As the show continued and other acts took the stage, Lily's performance lingered in everyone's minds. People in the audience talked about her during the breaks, imitating her lion roar and laughing together. On social media, clips of her audition began spreading rapidly, viewers from around the world expressing amazement at her talent. Comment after comment praised her skill, her confidence, and her authenticity. Many people said they had never seen anything like it before. Some even shared stories of their own children finding confidence through unique talents, inspired by Lily's courage. For Lily, that night marked the beginning of something new. Not just a competition journey, but a realization that her voice, in all its unusual forms, mattered. That being different could be powerful. That loving something deeply and working at it could open doors she never even knew existed. When she returned home, life did not suddenly become glamorous. She still went to school, did homework, and practiced her animal impressions in her room. But something inside her had changed. She carried herself with a little more confidence, a little more belief in herself. And every time she made an animal sound now, she remembered the roar of the crowd, the smiling judges, and the moment when the world listened. Her journey on the show was only just beginning, but one thing was already clear. An 11-year-old girl with a love for animals had stepped onto one of the biggest stages in the world and left an unforgettable mark, not by trying to be someone else, but by proudly being herself. The stage felt enormous as Lily Wilker stepped forward, the bright lights making everything beyond the front row blur into a soft glow. For a moment, the world seemed to narrow to the sound of her own breathing and the steady beat of her heart. She was only 11, yet she stood there with a calmness that surprised even herself. Somewhere behind her, the curtain swayed gently, and somewhere out in the darkness, thousands of people waited to hear what she could do. She clasped her hands together, feeling the familiar comfort of grounding herself the way she always did before making a sound. This stage was bigger than her bedroom, bigger than her school auditorium, bigger than any place she had ever performed before, but the feeling inside her was the same as when she practiced at home. This was her world. Sound was her language. When the judges greeted her, she answered politely, her voice clear and confident. She could sense their curiosity, mixed with uncertainty. She had seen that look before. People often didn't know what to expect when she told them about her talent. Animal impressions sounded simple to some, silly to others. Lily had learned long ago not to judge their reactions too quickly. She knew what she could do, and she knew how much work it had taken to get there. Animals had always been her favorite thing. Even before she could read properly, she would sit for hours watching nature documentaries, listening carefully, rewinding scenes just to hear a sound again. While other kids memorized songs or movie lines, Lily memorized calls, growls, chirps, and roars. She paid attention to how animals used sound to express emotion, warning, joy, fear, and power. To her, every sound told a story. When Simon asked her what she was going to do, Lily smiled softly and explained. As expected, the audience reacted with light laughter, not unkind, but unsure. She felt a tiny flutter of nerves in her stomach, but she pushed it aside. She had learned that the best way to handle doubt was to let the sound speak for itself. The moment she began, everything changed. The first bark cut through the air sharp and playful, echoing through the theater. It wasn't exaggerated or cartoonish. It was real. Heads turned. People laughed in surprise, not because it was funny, but because it was unexpected. Lily moved effortlessly into a cat sound, adjusting her posture slightly, letting her face soften. The meow flowed into a purr so smooth and convincing that it sent a ripple of amazement through the room. She didn't rush. She let each sound breathe, just like the animals she studied. Birds came next, delicate and bright, layered calls that danced above the audience like invisible wings. The theater felt alive, as if nature itself had crept inside. Lily could feel the shift in energy. She could hear it in the silence between reactions, in the way people leaned forward instead of whispering. When she reached the horse impression, she felt a spark of excitement. This one was powerful, bold, full of movement. The sound burst out of her chest, strong and ringing. The audience responded instantly, clapping and cheering, some people laughing in disbelief. Lily caught a glimpse of the judges' faces and saw something that made her heart soar. They weren't just entertained, they were impressed. Each new animal brought a new reaction. A cow's low, steady call that made the audience chuckle. A sheep's gentle bleat that softened the mood. A frog's croak that caused laughter to ripple across the front rows. Lily stayed focused, her mind tuned only to the sounds, to the memory of how each one felt when she practiced it at home. Then came the challenge. When Simon asked if she could do something wilder, something harder, Lily felt a familiar thrill. This was the moment she had imagined. She nodded, already knowing which sound she would choose. The lion had always been her favorite. Not just because it was powerful, but because it represented confidence and courage, two things she had learned to grow into over time. She planted her feet, grounding herself. She took a breath deep enough to feel it fill her chest, and then she let go. The roar that exploded from her was raw and commanding, rolling through the theater with a force that stunned everyone into silence for a split second. It wasn't just loud, it was alive. It carried emotion, authority, and intensity. It was the sound of something fearless. The audience erupted. Applause thundered through the room, cheers bouncing off the walls. People stood, clapped, shouted her name. Lily opened her eyes and saw the judges reacting in ways she hadn't expected. They were smiling, laughing, shaking their heads in disbelief. Simon stared at her with a look that mixed surprise and genuine respect. As the noise settled, Lily felt her chest tighten, not from nerves, but from emotion. She had done it. She had shown them what she loved, what she worked for, what made her feel alive. When the judges spoke, she listened carefully, every word sinking in. Praise felt different when it came from people who truly understood how difficult something was. Each yes vote felt like a warm wave washing over her. She nodded politely, thanked them, and walked off the stage with a smile that felt almost too big for her face. Backstage, the moment the curtain closed behind her, the tension melted away. Her parents rushed toward her, their faces lit up with pride and tears. They hugged her tightly, and Lily laughed, the sound full and free. Later, when the excitement calmed, Lily thought about how far she had come. She remembered the times when kids at school didn't understand her sounds, when teachers asked her to be quiet, when people thought it was just a phase. She remembered practicing alone, replaying recordings, pushing herself to make each sound more accurate than the last. She remembered choosing not to give up, even when it would have been easier to stop. That night, her audition spread far beyond the theater. Clips of her performance traveled across screens around the world. People watched with amazement, shared the video, commented with words of encouragement. Some laughed in delight, others watched with tears in their eyes. Parents showed it to their children. Kids watched and felt inspired to embrace what made them different. For Lily, the biggest change wasn't fame or attention. It was confidence. She realized that her voice, in all its unusual forms, had power. That her love for animals wasn't strange or silly. It was special. It was hers. As she lay in bed later that night, replaying the moment in her mind, she smiled to herself. The roar of the lion still echoed in her memory, not just as a sound, but as a reminder. She had stepped onto a stage filled with doubt and walked away having turned it into belief. And no matter what happened next, she knew one thing for sure. She would always follow the sounds that made her feel brave.